Welcome to the Night Watch Show, Roadside Edition. Just want to take a few minutes of your time to talk about really how impressed I personally am, and probably all of us are, with how well humanity has handled the recent challenges that we've encountered in our communities, in our countries, and throughout the world. We've faced unimaginable challenge. Our lives really completely changed. People in various types of quarantines and lockdowns, not being able to work, being very socially isolated, and just dramatic changes, not only in terms of distancing and isolation, but also financially. So many have lost their jobs, have lost their revenue streams, have lost their assets, their savings, their retirement. Not all, but big chunks of it gone due to the crashing global stock markets. So much has changed, and we've been through so much, not to mention so many massive numbers of people infected by coronavirus, so many deaths. The news is just mostly all negative lately. There are not a lot of happy stories on the news these days. I personally try to stop watching it because it's all just repetitive, and it seems like you're watching a constant replay of the same bad news over and over and over. And everyone finds themselves in various types of strain, personally, pressure, high pressure, psychological pressure, the psychological pressure of having your life turned upside down, and that of your family, your friends, your loved ones, your community, everything completely changing, financial stress, isolation-based stress. Really, the amount of stress this has placed on all of us personally, family-wise, community-wise, country-wise, global-wise, is just immense and immeasurable. And yet, humanity has handled it, what I would say, is quite admirably. Now, all governments have, I believe, for the most part, done their best to control the coronavirus outbreak and to limit its spread, and many have done it quite successfully. Others are struggling to do it, and to do whatever it takes to beat this novel coronavirus invisible enemy. And so there's even a lot of commendation should go to world leaders who are doing their very best, politics aside, to solve this awful dilemma we find ourselves in. Of course, there's too much politics going on. Of course, there are some mixed agendas, but really this topic is not about politicians and not about politics and not about world leaders. It's about people. It's about humanity. It's about the fact that it seems as though we have not seen an increase in criminality, which really is surprising and amazing, that we haven't seen a spike in robberies and in violent crimes and homicides and burglaries and even vandalism, smashed windows of shops and stolen merchandise. And it just seems like somehow everybody is following the guidance of the health authorities exceptionally well. There are, of course, some exceptions, but I don't believe we've seen spikes in criminality throughout the world, throughout specific countries. In America, for example, I don't believe we've seen spikes in criminality. In fact, I believe that we've actually seen a decrease in crime rates. And that is truly quite commendable for humanity to realize that when faced with a global challenge that affects all of us, we're all united in this battle together, regardless of politics, regardless of countries, regardless of religions, regardless of where we're from and who our countries are aligned with or at odds with, and all of these other various factors. We're all really united as one, as humanity, as human beings, fighting this crisis, struggling in our own ways in various levels. Some are struggling far more than others, of course, but everybody from all levels of society, including we have CEOs of Fortune 500 companies tweeting about selling their homes and selling all their possessions and, getting rid of everything they own. Elon Musk, for example, just tweeted that yesterday. And there's just a lot going on. People at all levels seem quite heavily psychologically affected by this, and yet life seems to go on in a nice continuity, with safety, with prudence, with wisdom, with caution, with adherence to best practices. And of course, there's some breakdowns. There's people at the beach that are going a bit crazy in terms of all gathering around closely and disregarding the protocols for social distancing, and that is happening, but they're not attacking each other, they're not robbing each other, they're not tearing down stores and stealing things. So there are some breakdowns in the system overall, but when you look at the big picture, wow, who would have thought that everybody could put their differences aside, be united in a common cause to destroy this nightmarish enemy that has affected all of us in a severe and just immeasurable way, and in different levels for all of us. It's turned our lives completely backwards and sideways and inside out. And yet people seem to be continuing in best efforts to maintain normalcy in their lives. And I just find it quite amazing to see that this test that I believe humanity has proven they can pass, if and when we ever again face a global crisis of this magnitude, whether it be a pandemic or anything else that comes our way, it seems that we are quite capable of putting all else aside and really uniting in handling things with great professionalism in a very admirable manner. And it may have been quite unexpected. I think a lot of people were assuming there would be widespread chaos and civil unrest and rioting and increases in crime waves across the world, across countries, cities, states, communities, locally, everywhere. But I certainly haven't seen it. I'm not sure if you have. If you have, please post a comment about it. And if you also are realizing that in your community crime rates seem quite low, please post about that too. I'm just amazed and proud of humanity right now, and I don't think I was able to say that before now, that we can really look forward into the future knowing that whatever comes our way, we're all going to do what it takes. So who would have thought we could go 2 months or longer basically staying at home, isolated in quarantine, not working, shutting everything down, really everything stopping, airplanes stopping, cars not driving, trucks not moving around for the most part, everything closed. Who would have thought we could even handle that? Who would have thought that we wouldn't have people just, mass waves of protests and clashes and everything? And we've handled it so well globally, not just locally. And that's just amazing. And I know that many countries now are starting to emerge from quarantines. They're transitioning from one type of quarantine to another, from enhanced levels of quarantine to more general levels of quarantine, and even out of quarantine. And businesses are starting to open. In America, Georgia was one of the first to open lots of businesses, including fitness centers, for example. Other states are following, and other countries are following gradually with prudence. And hopefully that proves to be a good example for the rest of the world, to see countries and really states and cities at first reopening successfully without another surge. And if that's proven to work effectively, that's a good example for the rest of the world. I think everyone's watching Georgia and other states and countries that are starting to reopen, including, of course, the Wuhan area of China, to see how things go. And so far, things seem to be going okay with this gradual, measured reopening. Now, of course, what's amazing is that there are treatments being worked on. In the U.S., the FDA just approved on an emergency basis a treatment that it's a medication given intravenously that seems to decrease the recovery time from the novel coronavirus by around 3 or 4 days, which amounts to about a 30% faster recovery, which is great. That's a lot of time. Of course, we hope for improvements and more and faster and better, but that sure is a good step in the right direction. And everyone around the world, scientists and governments and universities, are working on a cure, and it seems like we're moving fast and we're getting closer, and vaccines are coming. It will be a while, but eventually there will be a vaccine. There are trials, human trials going on with vaccines already. And so eventually we will have what is needed for treatment and for vaccines. But we've proven that even without treatment and without vaccines, through various measures, including social distancing, various types of isolation, various types of treatment. Some physicians have actually been trying a ventilation type hood instead of a ventilator, where you essentially put it's almost like a giant helmet filled with oxygen over the patient's head, filled with oxygen, which seems to actually work possibly as well as a ventilator. And there are just new approaches being tried all the time. So we're making so much advancement, even without a cure, without a vaccine. It seems that we can at least control this pandemic and before long there will be hopefully a cure, a treatment, and a vaccine, and then we'll be way past it. But we've managed to hold it together against all odds, against really all imaginations that we could ever do this. And we're starting to reopen. We're heading back in the right direction. Life as it should be, normal, what we're used to, is starting to gradually resume. I'm seeing signs of that little by little, and it's amazing how much you appreciate the simple things that you used to take for granted now are like, wow, that business is open. Wow, I can go to get a coffee at my favorite coffee shop. It's just the little things that we took for granted now are so important to us. So it's really a humbling experience for all of us, and it really makes us, I think, appreciate all that we have and all that we've been able to achieve in life, and all of the blessings that we all have in different ways wherever we're from. It's a great time to kind of reset, clean slate, reinvent yourself, get rid of bad habits. Those of you that may have had a drinking problem haven't been able to drink for quite a while, because I think bars all over the world are closed and a lot of alcohol bans in place. And if you're trying to stop drinking, it sure is a great time to stop drinking. Many of you that are social smokers and smoke kind of in the smoke breaks at work, maybe you haven't been doing that, and it's a good time to not start smoking again. I think we all need to probably work on health and fitness. It's time for that, since many of us have been, including myself, quite inactive as we wait out this various types of quarantines and lockdowns we find ourselves in, and fitness centers have for the most part been closed, I think, all around the world. So now there's virtual fitness, there's ways to work out and get fit at home, but a lot of us haven't done it. So I would just say that this is a great opportunity to appreciate what we have, to focus on healthier, moving forward steps in our life forward. And it's a great opportunity for a fresh start, a clean slate, reinventing ourselves in terms of having a good diet, getting rid of bad habits, whatever they may be, and just living a cleaner, healthier life moving forward. And also being very appreciative of all that we have, and being ready in case something else 5 or 10 or 20 years from now happens again. And I think that the younger generations that are just possibly in high school or elementary school, for example, that are seeing this for the first times, they'll always remember this. They'll always remember this time, and they will be so much more prepared for this than most of us were, because they've already gone through something like this once. Whatever may happen in the future, I think that they will know in their heart that humanity can overcome just about anything that comes our way. Thank you so much for joining today's episode of the Night Watch Show.